And welcome to Remainders. My name is Patrick.
Welcome to Remainders. My name is Darren.
Looking good, bud. How's it going? I always am excited every week to see a new piece on your fine background.
Thank you very much. Yeah, as you know, I've been kind of creating a lot of art lately. So there's a lot of it. This is the piece that I just showcased today. Liz Taylor eating a cheeseburger. So if you're listening to this and you can't see it, it's basically what I just said, Liz Taylor eating a cheeseburger. But also behind me is the Lone Ranger. And that's why I don't think that one got like a lot of excitement around it, but that's one of my favorites. I don't know. I really like, there was this Orville Peck video that inspired it, to be honest with you. And he was talking a lot about, have you seen that when he was talking about the Lone Ranger?
No, I missed that one.
Well, it was really great. He was just talking about how that's why he wears a mask, sort of like, and I won't spoil it for you. You should watch it. It's on YouTube. But it was really cool. And I was like, damn, I got to do a Lone Ranger portrait. So I kind of did it in my style. And I like the idea of making him blue. I always like that, like a character that has like a lot of life to it, or a pop culture character, and then kind of put a little spin on it, you know?
I'm a huge defender of the recent Lone Ranger movie with Johnny Depp and Armie Hammer.
I know you're looking for me to say that I liked it.
No, I haven't
seen it.
There's always no. Yeah, I just been on record a couple of times. I think that one is as good as like the original Pirates of the Caribbean. It's the same director.
Gore Verbinski, right?
Yeah. And Gore Verbinski, by the way, has got a filmography that is just all over the place, but I love it. But his big budget movies are kind of like the perfect. They catch the perfect tone for me in terms of like action and just over the top storytelling. But yeah, like that was the one that I was a huge fan of. So, but I mean, I've never really seen like the original show or anything. So like most of my only understanding of the Lone Ranger is from that movie. So.
Yeah, you know, it doesn't surprise me that a movie that flopped at the box office is one of your favorites. So that never ceases to surprise me with you and your picks.
That's a good question. Yeah, I'm just running through like all my favorite flops of all time. You know, I think it's pretty equal. You know, so
I know it's almost like we should do a Remainders season on like flops that are awesome. You know, that's actually a cool idea.
Yeah, certainly movies that did not do well, but then actually have a lot of merit to them. I could definitely come up with many of that. So
yeah.
But no, like back to your art, this new rollout has been fantastic. I love the pieces critiquing social media, by the way.
I know those are some of my favorite. Again, I just don't think that those were like as loved as much on social media, which is kind of the funny twist, you know?
Right.
But I think they're some of my best. I think they're some of the most thought-provoking that I've done. But again, as my girlfriend and I talk about all the time, judging your work by how well they're received on social media is probably the biggest mistake you can do. So I stick by it, and I think they're good. And thank you for saying that. I think they're cool.
Yeah, no, and you definitely, I 100% agree with you on that in terms of gauging the success on that.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely goes back to my daily mantra of efforts, not results, focusing on what you can control and what you can't control. And success on social media, not only can you not control it, it is also certainly not a gauge of quality at all. So
right, which I think is such a bummer, because some people, and myself included, in the past, you know, you get so down, like, why did this not, you know, have this many likes or whatever it might be on whatever platform, and it does mess with the human condition that way. Well, and that's a terrible thing, because you can start to doubt yourself, and if you're creating something, it's you know, you put it out in the world, then you're on to the next thing, and don't stew on something. You know, not everything you do is going to be the best ever, you know, painting or song, but it doesn't matter as long as you're creating. I think that's your point.
I don't know. Your output gives that statement a run for its money in terms of consistent quality. So
You're always too kind to me, Pat. And that's why I do this podcast, because I just want my head to explode every day when I talk to you.
That's what I'm here for. Yeah, we need to talk music a little quickly. I was pretty excited. We were texting back and forth that Marky Ramone just got added to Riot Fest, which I had mentioned I was already going to plan on going this year, and then he was a late addition. So I was very excited to hear about that, his Blitzkrieg touring, where it's basically him on drumming and a guest singer performing a full Ramones set. And yeah, you were mentioning that show, was that 2013 at the Double Door?
2013 or 2014, one? But actually 2013 actually sounds about right. Did you go to that too?
Well, yeah, we ran into each other.
Did we? I don't remember that.
By coincidence, we were just separately going to the show, because obviously Marky Ramone and Andrew WK is not something you can miss. But yeah, I was there totally. With my group. I was there with a couple of my friends. You were there. We ran into each other at the now defunct Flatiron across the street.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I remember that now. Holy crap! So when I was telling you that, you're probably like, "Yeah, dummy, I saw you there."
It's like, yeah, no shit, man.
I totally slipped my mind. Wow, and that was the show.
It just means great minds think alike.
Excellent.
So that's why we were showing up at each other at the same time.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, that's a show that stuck with me for a long time, because I certainly never saw the Ramones before Joey passed away. I believe you did, yeah?
3 times. I was pretty lucky.
3 times,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you got me definitely beat there. Yeah, I was never able to see him before that. So seeing Marky Ramone perform with Andrew WK, who I thought, I mean, that was in my heavy Andrew WK kind of like phase. Like, he was touring a lot, and I would like go to see him quite a bit. So that was like a big part of why I wanted to see that show as well. And his performance on stage. I mean, his energy with his own band is always incredible, but he definitely brought the energy to the Ramones song as well.
I mean, it was like not, I won't say it was like seeing the Ramones, but it was like the closest thing to it. He was great. That was an awesome show.
I mean, yeah, like I said, the energy like he was bringing to it was fantastic. So that's a show that's always stuck with me, especially when they performed I Don't Want to Grow Up. I think I've mentioned this before, but that was like a perfect trifecta. It's a Tom Waits song covered by the Ramones and then sung by that night by Andrew WK. It was like this perfect trifecta of 3 artists that I love. So
yeah, totally. And I know you're just a really big Tom Waits fan. What stuck out to me that night, I think his wife was in the band, and I remember him calling her out and like bringing her out in the front of the stage, and I think she might have been on keys that night or something. That was cool. I also remember from that night, I went with the guy that I first saw the Ramones with, and is the guy that I named that first Scissors record after, Riv Rat Rob. So he was there, and he was the one who went with me, and it was a nice kind of cap on it. Like, we couldn't go see the Ramones together anymore, so like, we get to see Marky Ramone play. So I'm pretty jealous. I did see that he was playing. In fact, Lindsay, who we know, she messaged me the day before that he was playing, and I said, she calls him the worst Ramone. She's like, the worst Ramone is playing at Riot Fest, because it's like whatever, like the drummer, I guess. But at the same time, like, that's all I said to her. That's all we got left, man. Like whatever. And also, like, when you see him with someone like Andrew WK or something, it's like a new spin on it, like an old classic. So it's gonna be good.
Yeah, I mean, I was hyped for it back when I saw it back then, but like, obviously, in the hindsight of how great of a show that was, I'm definitely excited for them to be there this year. I think they're playing Friday, so I'm definitely going to be devoting at least most of my time on Friday and Saturday. So
yeah, are you doing the 3-day?
I mean, I always end up having a 3-day pass, but I certainly don't usually make my way all 3 days. I don't know, like maybe I'm just getting too old to stand on my feet at a concert for 12 hours a day, 3 days in a row. But
Riot Fest is like the weird one, because it's like, first day it's hot as hell, second day it rains, and the third day the bees come out and sting you while you're trekking through like sloshy mud, and it's like real like what do they call it, the humidity is like insane. So like, it's weird because it's a weird time of year. and you never know with the weather. So like at the end of that, you need like to sleep for at least a week, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I'm always cool with like catching like my favorite acts from all 3 days, and just kind of making it out, making it more of a casual. I mean, like I'm never like upfront for any of the shows anyway. I just kind of do a milling around of the show because it's a pretty good vibe there. I mean, it's definitely not like an overly aggressive vibe or too young of a crowd. It's pretty diverse in terms of age. I mean, you have a lot of like families there. You bring older punks bringing their kids to the
Yeah,
show, so it's usually a pretty chill vibe.
totally.
So yeah, that definitely added a little excitement to the show coming up. So
Yeah, I'm glad we
looking
talked
forward to
about
that.
that. It's kind of one of those things I miss now that I'm out in LA is that when Ride Fest comes around, I get that itch like, I wish I was home, back home in Chicago for that. But there's obviously plenty to do out here. So I always have something to replace it with.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You got any shows coming up, or anyone
Well,
recently you went to?
yeah, I do. I'm going. I think I told you before. I was going to see Murdered by Death. That's my big one that I
Yep,
can't wait for. They have a new record coming up to today.
nice.
Today, Friday.
It is. Yep.
Damn, yeah, it's out today. So that's what I'll be doing tonight is listening to their new record, and can't wait for that. But then I'm going to see the Birds at Hollywood Forever Cemetery, which I'm really looking forward to next weekend. So that's
Like
kind of my
the original Birds.
Yep. There. So I think I told you I just went to go see Ferris Bueller's Day Off there.
Yeah.
They do it every day, every weekend in the summer. They have a great movie playing and people gather, right next to Johnny Ramone and Dee Dee Ramone, because Johnny's not buried there, but his grave markers there, and Dee Dee is buried there. So it's kind of interesting. You got like two Ramones in there, and then you've got all these like celebrities, but you're under the stars enjoying a great night. And there's no feeling like it. I really hope you come visit me sometime soon so I can take you to one of these. You'd love it, Pat. You'd love it so
hell
much.
yeah.
But anyway, I'm going to see the Birds, and it's funny with my girlfriend. We went and saw Psycho a year or two ago, and she was, we're like, okay, of course we're going to see Psycho. Like if they're playing that movie under, in a cemetery or whatever, like we got to go see that. And halfway through the movie, she's kind of like scared and stuff. And I'm like, well, what's wrong? She's like, I've never seen this movie before. And I was like, are you kidding me? You've never seen Psycho
Nice.
before? Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it's not that way with the Birds. She's seen it before, but like a long time ago. So I'm really excited to kind of like experience it with her that way.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. This entire time when I asked you about any shows coming up and you said the Birds, I'm thinking like the original 60s rock group Birds. I'm like, with remaining, that's honestly who I was thinking of this entire time. I didn't realize you were talking about a movie.
No. Yeah, Alfred Hitchcock's
right.
The Birds. I guess I should have clarified. I'm a
No,
little
that's right.
scattered with the way the week has been, so I might have not
I
been
would
clear.
be completely ignorant about what surviving members of the Birds would be playing. So that's why I was just kind of going along with it. Okay, fantastic. I'm actually reading a book on Hitchcock right now, The 12 Lives of Hitchcock, of Alfred Hitchcock, and it's divvied up in terms of like chapters of kind of his personality, his life, his art. It's really good so far. I'm about halfway through. I'm gonna have to send you the link because I think you definitely dig it.
Oh man, for sure. Anything like kind of new that like I don't know about Hitchcock, I love like hearing about. When I actually did a Remainders episode in transition to getting to the new season with you,
Yeah.
about, it was like a mini episode that I did on
Cary Grant.
Dear Carrie, yeah,
Yeah.
Diane Cannon's memoir about Cary Grant, and there's a great story in that book about Hitchcock and kind of being like the master of ceremonies for like a Thanksgiving meal with all these great actors and actresses. And so Diane Cannon talks about like walking into the house and like his morbid sense of humor and stuff like that. And it's cool because that whole book you sort of get like a insider's look at what it was like to like kind of be in that circle with all these people that they're just legendary.
Yeah. Wow, that's great.
So I'm interested in that book. That would be cool. Maybe we
Yeah,
can
no,
send that also out on our socials so people can see it.
Yeah, I do remember that episode, and I put in that book on my queue, and obviously my book queue is a little bit is
Pretty
growing
long.
faster. It
Yeah.
grows faster than it goes down, so it's definitely on there. So it's on my to do. I get into my kicks of like, obviously we spend a decent amount of time watching movies, but then I get on my kicks in terms of like researching them and learning about the past. And
Well,
'cause it's
there's,
easier.
I talked about it a lot. I'm a huge Mad Men fan, and I, not like the last 3 episodes, I haven't said it to you enough, but there's a there's a kind of like a character, a pretty big character who does LSD in that show. And I really think that they ripped that straight from the Cary Grant headlines that, back in like the 60s when Cary Grant was experimenting with LSD. It wasn't like he was like going on record about it fully, but like everybody knew about it and it was talked about. And he was like kind of a proponent of LSD, which also comes out in that book. So it's cool. It's like that time period, it's like such an interesting time. And hearing like this great big huge star saying, yeah, I'm into LSD, weird.
No, it's. I mean, the psychotropic drugs have always been around. It's just our kind of prudish Western vibe on drugs have been a little hindering of it. I just posted a link or showing Michael Pollan's new documentary, How to Change Your Mind, on Netflix, which is entirely about mind expanding drugs and their kind of role in consciousness. It was based off of his book, How to Change Your Mind, which goes into Cary Grant's experience quite a bit. So,
Oh, cool. Oh, wow. Okay, cool. I'll have to
yeah,
watch it. I've seen that on there. I
yeah,
like that.
yeah. I don't know how I haven't completely finished the documentary, but I read the book twice actually, and it's largely a historical document about psilocybin and LSD and whatnot, and all the drugs that you can use to kind of like show the other side of the mind and what the mind is capable of, similar to like what extended meditation can do. And yeah, the stuff about Cary Grant was I had no idea at the time, so that was pretty
Yeah,
cool to
it's
learn
cool. It's
about.
like definitely a lot to learn out there in the world. Unfortunately, we can't live to be 500 million years old because I just feel like there's not enough time to shove it all in. But I do love putting as much in as I can. And that ever expanding book list of yours, speaking of, I like following you on social media because that's pretty much all you post about is the books that you're reading. And that's like what I love because I'm like, oh, I got to pick up that book. I'm always looking for book recommendations myself. And you've always been spot on. Everyone that I've ever read that you've told me about, I've loved and it's bettered my life in some way. So if anybody's out there listening, you should follow Pat at Conscious Book Rex, right? It's Conscious Book Rex.
Yeah,
If you're interested in hearing about and what Pat's reading.
yeah. I mean, and going back to the social media, if you want to get ignored on social media, talk about books, because even though people are interested, it doesn't, not necessarily the most shared idea and notion on social media. So
Yeah, but I don't know about social media in general. I'm all about the stuff that I follow that actually betters what I want to do as a human being and also my artistic side. So I like that. And I don't care if anybody else does.
well, yeah, I mean, we were kind of discussing our perfect lifestyle before, and certainly I have a very kind of laid back bohemian lifestyle where my ideal setup is like just reading at a coffee shop for 6 hours of the day. That's just kind of my default of what I prefer to do with my time. So
I can tell you something cool that happened to me yesterday. I when I lived in Chicago, I had one of those balconies that were like really high up, and I would just overlook the city, and I loved it. And I would sit out there, read a book, just like you're talking. Like I spent a lot of time out there having coffee and reading. I'd paint out there too, even though it was small. I really miss that here in LA. But the place I'm at, I love. I love the people and I love my landlords and everything. And this is a great community. And it's better in some ways because I get to actually talk to the people instead of the way it is in Chicago. I just never really see anybody and everybody keeps to themselves, which is fine. but I kind of wanted to be around more of a community vibe. And so the reason I'm telling this story is the other day, my landlords put in a patio for me, like a real small one where there used to be like a bush and stuff like that. But they
Nice.
were like, we know you are at home all the time and working from home and all this kind of stuff. We just thought you'd enjoy a little bit of a place to go out and take a breather. And like, how about that for the kindness of the week? You know,
Oh yeah.
it's done so much for me, you know, just going outside. And I know, I'm sure everybody knows, just taking a break and stepping outside after you've been inundated with a computer screen or your phone does wonders for your mental health.
That's awesome. Is it like I've never seen your place in that way? So is it on the first floor? Or is it on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's on the
first floor. Yeah, because I don't think, the second floor has like one of those like long, standing concrete slabs that goes by. People sit out there too, to
Okay. Yeah.
watch the sunset or whatever. But for me down here, it's just like a bunch of bushes. So now I got my own little spot. It's all like real nice, and I've been out there a few times today already, and was almost hard to come in here to do this with you today because I was like, damn, I'm loving it out here.
Well, I'm happy you did. We're already getting to talk about the music and best parts of our lives. I love it.
I agree.
Speaking of music, I'm going back just really quick. Yeah, we mentioned when we were talking, I saw the Hallelujah documentary. So I've been listening to plenty of Leonard Cohen this week. I guess between that doc and then the Marky Ramone announcement, it's been going back between Leonard Cohen and Ramones.
Yeah. What did you just like hot take, let's say, what did you take from that film? What's one great thing you took from the film?
Well, I mean, generally, I don't know how popular Leonard Cohen is because I don't know. I just have a hard time gauging like an older artist and how much they kind of transition to newer. We kind of talked about this with like Elvis. It's like I don't know how popular Elvis is with like a younger generation, and it's kind of the same with Leonard Cohen. But that documentary was part like story about his life, but then equal parts about the song, specifically Hallelujah, and how much that song has transcended even his own career in terms of like just how ubiquitous it is, like everybody covering it. Obviously Jeff Buckley's version kind of brought it in the early 90s, brought it to like a whole nother level. And so it was like, I mean, I would highly recommend you check it out. Being a full-time songwriter, it's like that was like the main focal point throughout the entire movie was just the songwriting process leading up to it, the execution, and then how songs kind of become their own things once you put it out in the world.
Yeah, I once you told me about that, I was really excited to see it. So you saw it at the Music Box, yeah?
Yeah, in their little screening room. It was not on the main theater, but I was like getting the chance to go to their second theater, which is just like this nice little 50-seat screening room, which has a little bit more of a chill vibe than the large theater.
It's actually a good way to segue into Woman Under the Influence, because I heard that John Cassavetes really had to work hard to get this film in theaters because everybody thought it was, and they're right. It's pretty heavy, So I heard he had to really like go. It played more so in like colleges and things like that, from what I've read at least. And that he had to put a lot of his own personal financing. Peter Falk put a lot of his own financing into this film. It's interesting, when you care about your art or something, that you go and hit the street like that, like they did a lot of question and answers from what I've read to talk about the film and why it was important. And then I also read that, we'll get into it in a minute, but, it had a good lasting effect, which I didn't really need to read that because I love the film myself, and it's, been preserved in the 90s and on one of the top, everybody's top lists of films worth seeing. And that just is another reminder to go with, make what you love and what feels right, and don't worry so much about the reception right now. The art will live forever if it's good.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. Yeah, Women Under the Influence. This was your pick, which I'm pretty excited that you chose, because I had seen portions of it, but I had never watched it all the way through. And yeah, it's definitely a harrowing movie to watch, but I had an amazing time checking it out. But yeah, speaking of like the way you're saying, like he was forced to basically finance it himself, like a combination between him and private investors. And as you mentioned, Peter Falk put up like a large portion of it. Yeah, I was reading. I mean, it did pretty successful. I
Yeah,
think it saw it
nominated
made.
for Oscars. Gena Rowlands at least
Oh
was.
yeah, it was definitely critically received well, but it made pretty decent money. And obviously, him like them being the financiers themselves, there were no big studio in the middle to take any cut of that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's true too. I didn't even really think about that. You know, the reward is also worth it monetarily if you don't have the big studios involved. Suck all that up to recoup
Right.
their losses. But yeah, I
So
love this film. I
yeah, I was
love
just gonna
John
ask, like,
Cassavetes.
what's
He's a badass, and I think it's because like I like to hear more real life stuff when I watch films. Sometimes it can be pretty heavy on me. I can get kind of depressed. So I have to work through that sometimes. But I still would rather watch something that's real than I would, you know, a comedy or fluff. Those are just my kind of movies. You know, things that people are really experiencing, and this movie's chock full of that shit. Um, it's almost like too real, you know, sometimes. And I don't know, like it's chaos. It's domestic chaos.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's essentially the story of a distressed housewife and a husband who I think, and we'll get into it, I think he may be near the breaking point as close to her um, as the movie unfolds. Because I mean, like, kind of the basic setup is that she's this person with a drinking problem, and another thing I want to talk about is whether or not the drinking comes first or the mental illness comes first, and how like kind of they interact with each other. But as the story goes on, you could almost kind of see the husband character Nick, played by Peter Falk, him being as mentally unstable as her. And I was just wondering what your thoughts on that were, because
I
you've obviously seen this.
for sure, because at first, when you do see the movie, you feel like, this is definitely a story about her. She's the
Right,
crazy, quote unquote, crazy one, and he's the one trying to keep it together. You're absolutely right. As the movie transpires, especially when especially when he's kind of stuck to deal with it, you know, you start to see like how frustrated he is, and that, you know, he's overworked, he's at his job, they're calling him, he says it at that one point, I'm not Superman, we tell him I'm not, she goes, he wants you to know he's not Superman. But like, you know, they're calling him, and that also, that phone call at the beginning, it's little moments like that where you know that it's a little bit of a problem between the two of them, that they do love each other. In fact, they open that way and they end that way. I don't know if you stuck around through the credits, which I always do, where you see him sort of rubbing her shoulders and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, this is, you just went through a long period of seeing a chaotic, troublesome marriage, but there are these moments, these really tender moments where these two people do really love each other. And that I feel like is super real. You know, couples and stuff like that fight, and sometimes to like scary, you know, just to a scary fever, let's say. But then they can have these moments that are super passionate and super loving. And I think that's kind of what you see here on film.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, one thing I noticed was Peter Falk, he's constantly reassuring Mabel that he loves her throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
But, and this is not necessarily like you know, like a critique of the character or anything, but like there is no assurance of like security or stability. That's definitely what I noticed in terms of like his constant reassurance. Like he's always in like the moments where she's like having like a panic attack, or is like kind of on the brink of some sort of attack. He's like constantly reminding how much he loves her, but like on the down times, there was like no assurance of security between the two. And I definitely noticed that kind of fragile state between the two of them quite a bit.
And let's just say that these kids, you feel for them. sweet, innocent, beautiful kids that are caught in the middle of the turmoil. So for those of you who haven't seen this film, Gena Rowlands, who is the main character of Mabel, uh, introduce is introduced pretty early on as troubled, as a troubled housewife, Pat put it. And what that means is that she has a problem with drinking, but that just is exacerbating this possible mental issue that she has. And as you see it unfold, she's making really bad mistakes, and the kids, who are supposedly kind of the glue between the two of them, get in the way and like are become pawns in sort of in this game. And they don't favor very well. You can see years down the line that they'll probably have some issues based on the way that their parents are behaving.
Yeah, it's definitely that kind of dread of silence, as I was kind of thinking about throughout the whole film. There's like a fear of silence, and so like in the beginning, there's a lot of like yelling, but it's kind of like playful yelling, and like not to like marginalize the tone of it at all, but it kind of reminded me of George's parents from Seinfeld, an actual more realistic version of the two of them.
Okay, I could see that. Yeah,
Yeah, like not a comic,
like more of like a bickering kind of.
yeah, exactly. Like George's parents would be like a very comical, over the top version of these two at the beginning of the film, and it just kind of had that vibe. That's more so at the beginning, obviously, and then like as it like moves forward, it gets far more serious in tone when you see some of the actual serious like fear in some of the characters' eyes. Like the one scene that like really stuck with me was like, the character's name was like Harold. I forget like their relation, but like it was just like a family friend. He was over there to like drop his kids off to play with Mabel and her kids, and it's this whole protracted scene when they're kind of getting ready to like play like with like costume parties and whatnot, and he's just slowly realizing that he doesn't trust Mabel to like actually watch his kids anymore because of her mental state, and just kind of the big things she's saying, and the way she's carrying herself. He's just slowly realizing, I don't want to leave my kids here with them.
That's a hard scene to watch.
Yeah.
It's also a tribute to the way John Cassavetes is running gun approach, and really tight shots at times that are claustrophobic, and the house itself is a little claustrophobic. So they're like showing them running up the stairs, and then the kids are like naked. There's like one of the kids is running around naked, and like Nick comes home, which is her husband, played by Peter Falk, and he's like, what the hell is going on here? And of course he starts to yell at the guy who's there with his kids, saying, get out of my house. But he has no clue really like what's happening, like that Mabel is a little possibly drunk and she's a little off kilter. And that scene is really hard to watch, seeing those kids just running around and being pulled around, and like again, like ping pong balls in the middle of this like chaos between the adults.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, we were talking about it before. Like this might be like my favorite performance, like in a movie that we've covered so far. We covered There Will Be Blood, so Daniel Day-Lewis is way up there. But Gena Rowlands in here, like every scene she's in, which is pretty much every one of them almost, but like every movement or just kind of like gentle reaction, and sometimes over the top reactions, it's like she's so fucking good in this movie. Definitely not surprised that she was nominated and won the Oscar for it at the time.
Well, for anyone out there watching, a lot of people would know Gena Rowlands from The Notebook as the old woman in The Notebook. That was something that I was hoping that, like, as time goes on, people wouldn't remember her as only the older woman in The Notebook. Of course, she is awesome, and she was in that film because that's her son who directed that. And that movie is awesome too, by the way. I do love The Notebook.
I was curious on what your thoughts on that was.
I love it, and I fucking love all the hoopla and hype around the actor in that, Ryan Gosling. I think he's awesome. I love La La Land, and Lars is the real girl.
I just rewatched The Nice Guys, which I think is fantastic. Him and Russell Crowe.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's like a 80s throwback of like a buddy cop movie, and like the two of them are like so perfect together. Like obviously with all those old 80s buddy cop movies, like the entire purpose was to have like two actors who kind of have like really good chemistry, and everything else can be whatever, but as long as the two of them are like good together on screen, it works. And it definitely works between Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling. And Gosling's, he's playing, I mean, they're both playing like over the top versions, but Gosling's definitely playing the doofus between the two, and which is kind of unusual. It's like there hasn't been a whole lot of roles that I've seen him do that, and he's fantastic as it.
I also love Russell Crowe, by the way.
Yeah.
And I think he should be in more stuff. I haven't seen him in a while, but anyway, I digress. Back to yeah, like so in the Notebook, Gena Rowlands, you know, awesome. I love her. And this movie, it's like it's like anybody who's an actor today should watch this film and find out how to act. I mean, this is like insane. It's on another level. It almost makes me like emotional talking about it, because she is so damn good. And I don't know what it is about these films. She's done a lot of films with her husband, John Cassavetes, who directed this film. And every movie that she does with him, I'm like, what is going on? Like, this is just shit. Like, she's insane. She's insanely good. And also just like gotta remember that she was in a Jim Jarmusch film too. I know you love that Night on Earth.
Night on Earth. Yeah, that scene is probably my favorite of I mean, that whole movie's great, but that one, her and we mentioned this
Winona Ryder,
the two of them together are so good.
Yeah. And so just you're right, that performance may be one of the best like we've ever talked about, but maybe one of the best performances of all time. Gena Rowlands deserves every bit of accolade for that. I read some reviews that people were saying she was over the top, and I just disagree with that 100%. You know, and it's also like a tribute again to the way John Cassavetes like films. I don't know, maybe it does look over the top, a performance like that, if you film it in a way that doesn't look as, you know, kind of gritty and kind of real.
I saw something that Cassavetes was originally writing this as a play.
Yeah.
And that like it's so okay. So I mean, I was just learning this. You're the Cassavetes expert here. Like I'm more of a new to him. I'm familiar with him, but haven't seen much of his work. But yeah, this was originally going to be a play, but I think it was largely because of her performance. She was just like, I don't want to do this every single night. This is too emotionally taxing to put on stage in front of a group of people every single night. So they got to put it on film, one and done, and then obviously lives on longer.
I could see that for sure. Like, because yeah, can you imagine having to put yourself through that every night?
Right.
Man, holy crap. But yeah, so she's amazing. And the film itself is, you know, it's an interesting thing because some criticisms of it that I've read as well are that, you know, you spend too much time in conversations and things like that. But that's kind of what you get with the John Cassavetes thing. You could kind of like, you know, roll the camera and just kind of let it go and let's see what plays out. And that's just a style. I
mean, I was definitely getting a vibe. I mean, two filmmakers who I'm sure they openly are indebted to him, but Joe Swanberg and Noah Baumbach. I was just definitely getting the vibe of their movies watching this, and just in terms of like the long conversations, the emotional depth to the characters, and just the free indie style filmmaking. It's like I saw. I mean, I've seen a bunch of Swanberg and Baumbach films, and looking back, I can see plenty of influence with Cassavetes films, especially this one. So,
agreed.
I mean, he was definitely the original indie filmmaker. I mean, he was doing self-financing, writing, editing, and directing his movies basically on his own in the 70s, like well before like the 90s boom of like everybody doing that. So I think even like on a business model stance, it's like he's most filmmakers are indebted to him anyway. So
can you imagine too? I mean, the guy was a world-class drunk, and so eventually killed him.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being that kind of you know, having that kind of like a lifestyle? I feel like he just like he rode himself into the ground and eventually, and you know, I don't know the story, but yeah, from what I understand is that he was a, you know, alcoholic, and he died of alcoholism. Um, so
Well, there
I
was
don't know.
a Ebert quote that stuck with me. Our favorite Roger Ebert. The key to his work is to realize that it's always Rowlands, not the male lead, who is playing the Cassavetes role. And like hearing that kind of made the switch in my mind. It was like, yeah, you could assume that he'd be playing he'd put himself in the male role prototype, but like her kind of playing the more stressed out versions of himself in his roles. And like obviously with the heavy drinking in here, you can definitely see that then.
Wow. Yeah, I had not ever heard that. That was
So that was in his
interesting.
original review. So that was like from, well, I guess he reviewed it like in the 80s. What year was this? 74?
So gosh, 70. I want to say later than that, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. But this was from his review from the 80s. So it was obviously, well, I've never seen Love Streams. Have you seen that one
No,
from Cassavetes? No?
no.
Okay.
Husbands is one of my favorite
Husbands I've
Cassavetes.
seen, and I offer your recommendation, and I really like that. Yeah, I definitely need to see. I want to see Minnie and Moskowitz.
I've seen that.
Seymour,
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, Seymour
Seymour
Cassel is in
Cassell.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I definitely got to get a little bit older Cassel because I've definitely seen plenty of him like pop up in Anderson movies and
Right.
Buscemi films. So,
Right.
and then Killing of a Chinese Bookie is also supposed to be another one that's supposed to be really good that I haven't checked out.
Yeah, I actually haven't seen that one either.
Yeah, so those are the ones that consistently come up as at least as most popular and kind of like most well regarded critically. So, but I
Yeah.
could definitely get the vibe. I think I saw that Rowlands has like starred in like, or at least appeared in 7 of his films. So it kind of, I'm pretty intrigued, like from that viewpoint of like him projecting himself onto her character rather than the male lead, and see what that plays
So
out for the rest of the
interesting.
movies. Yeah.
That's so interesting to me because yeah, it makes so much sense now that I see that chaotic kind of mental, like frustrated um character, and yeah, the alcoholism, like they don't spend too much time on that, you know, but they definitely get the point across at the beginning when she sits down at the bar next to that guy. I mean, that's pretty crazy scene where this guy is just like, I'll
Right.
take you home, you know, and
Yeah. Yeah.
she's downs an entire, basically like a fifth of whatever that is whiskey, like
Seagram 7.
it's, yeah, like it's basically a like a Coke or something. And I was like, you know what's going to happen in like 10 minutes from now, you know, and that it's what you expect, you know, it's just like some jerk taking her home and taking advantage of her, of this woman who's obviously disturbed, and there's a lot of fucked up shit. Let's just say there's a lot of fucked up shit in this film. I mean, there really is.
No, yeah, no. At the beginning, so Nick gets basically stuck at work. They're supposed to have a date night, and so Mabel ends up going out on her own. And it was really those scenes, like 20 minutes in, when she's like walking by herself through the empty bars.
Beautiful
Which
too, isn't it?
speaking of like Tom Waits, we mentioned it's like super Tom Waits vibe of like
Yeah.
Harvest Saturday Night, his like mid-70s stuff. Heavy Tom Waits vibe with those scenes, and then her just kind of bopping around and just kind of like checking out like who's sitting at the bar, and like in a real like cool demeanor, like and then she just slowly sits down next to him, and like just her slight reactions to like his kind of like pretty upfront hitting on her. It really was her reactions that I was like, wow, this is definitely one of the better performances I've seen in a long time.
Totally. Yeah. And it's like fearlessness, man, you know, like you could see that performance is pretty fearless, because you have to really go to some dark places for it. And you know, I don't know if you felt any relatability in that, but like there's moments where she's just not getting what she wants. Again, I think that they love each other in the film. I don't think that that's ever not felt, but it's the idea of the um sorry if you're hearing some bubbling. Sometimes my sink does that when somebody's taking a shower upstairs. It's amazing. um it's either you're either getting that or you're getting like a helicopter going by, you know. but yeah, the love in this film is very true and it's very real. And I think that like that whole scene of her going out and getting drunk, well, sure, one, she has an issue with it, but two, she's sad. She's genuinely sad that she can't have her husband come home and spend some time with her. So she does go out and make some bad decisions. But it's really born out of the fact that she's just upset.
Yeah, I was reading something. So this would be, I don't know how much of a trilogy they consider it, but this would be like the middle film in the Cassavetes trilogy with, I think, Faces, Minnie and Moskowitz, and then Faces as the last. So like this is kind of the middle section of the trilogy where they all kind of explore relationships. And so this is in like the middle where it's like these people are married and they most likely still love each other. They're still in the midst of it, and potentially could go like in a destructive way or not. And so this is kind of like in the shit of like a marriage that, yeah, I definitely believe they love each other quite a bit, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, having 3 kids and drinking all the time, I would go crazy too. So
Yeah, but that's why I think that. Can you hear that or no?
I can hear it just a little bit, not a big deal.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah. That's why I just think it's so interesting. God, I lost my train of thought now. What the hell was I talking about? Oh well, God darn it.
Whether or not they love each other, the characters.
Oh, yeah, but that's why. Okay, sorry everybody. A lot of stuff going on in my my apartment today. The scene at the end where the credits are rolling, I think it's so important that people do stick around for the credits. You never know what you're going to get. And for me, I love seeing the moments that are sort of shielded. Like as soon as they move the table out and the curtains are drawn, and we can't even, as the viewer, I mean, this is filmed on purpose this way, we're behind a door that's behind a curtain. So you're not supposed to be seeing these moments that are in there. And it's just them two. And they're beautiful. This is the first time since she came back from the mental institution that you see her smile. And it's after a very chaotic day because of course she's not really well yet. But when it's just them two, there's like, it really was coming together. You could see that he was like rubbing her shoulders and they were like in love, like truly again, without any bullshit, you know?
Yeah, and it goes back to, like I was saying before, he's constantly reassuring her that he loves her. Which I believe is genuine, but at the same time, it still kind of lacks that stability that you see that you kind of need in a relationship, especially one when you're caring for 3 kids. Yeah, those scenes when she gets back, so she essentially has that long harrowing scene with the doctor when it's basically like an open interrogation with I guess that's Peter Falk's actual mother.
Yeah.
So it's actually Peter Falk's mother and Gena Rowlands' mother at the beginning. So they have their own mothers playing.
That's very Cassavetes, like a lot of family or just pulling people off the streets, like pretty much not actors. Yeah.
But yeah, there's the harrowing scene when they bring in a psychiatrist and it's basically like an open interrogation of like her mental state in front of everybody. And it's pretty tough to watch. And she gets committed to a mental institution shortly thereafter. And then cut to the 6 months later with the welcome home party, which again was like him going back and forth and not really being. It certainly didn't feel like he was providing like a safe space for her at all. Like, I mean, they have like this huge party with like all these people to greet her, and I can't imagine that being like anybody coming home from a mental institution wanting to be in that setting.
I know, but like, how do you do that? You know, like that's why I almost feel like there's so much relatability or so much like realism, because like I felt for him, like, yeah, how do you do that? Your wife coming home from the mental institution, and it's already been set up that everybody at his work knows. It's a kind of a friction point with him and like a lot of people at work. So like people know, you know. So I don't know if he was like doing that. It was a dumb move, I think, in general.
That's, you know? I mean, yeah, I wouldn't know how to do it either, but I'm pretty sure I wouldn't invite 30 people over.
yeah, totally.
With a bunch of sandwiches hanging out there. So, but yeah,
It's kind of like having like sandwiches and stuff like that at funerals, in my opinion. Like,
right.
who the fuck wants to eat right now? You know, like, but
Yeah.
there's always some asshole like down there stuffing his face, you know, while like you're at a funeral.
Well, it's a good way to busy yourself when you don't want to confront any uncomfortable feelings.
Okay. You're always the voice of reason, Pat. I know.
But yeah, I felt for the kids on those scenes when she was returning. They kind of had this really kind of confused sense when she's trying to talk to them, see how they're doing, and they're just, I mean, very blunt, like kids are, for better or worse. But you can tell that they were feeling a little unease at that time, which fully understandable. You probably haven't.
Yeah,
Seen
they just keep on wanting to come
her.
back to their mom, you know. They just want to keep on hugging her, and she's kind of off in la la land, you know. And then they have to like witness Peter Falk. He warns her a couple times, not saying it's right, but he says, "I don't want to have to do that. Don't make me come up there and knock you down." But she's obviously, he doesn't know what to do. He's frustrated, and so he knocks her down.
Right.
I mean, it's shocking, and the kids see it. The kids are there; they're present. And then they have to play this game like mommy's sleeping, you know, she's just resting. It's like, no, you just fucking hit her, you know, and knocked her down. And then he's trying to like make them trust him to like come over here, you know, and like it's like, dude, you just hit our mom. Like that's, oh man, that's a heavy scene.
Yeah, no, and like maybe we could shift to like Peter Falk a little bit more and his character Nick, but like I was saying at the beginning, like he's definitely presented at the beginning as like the rational, stable one of the two. You know, they opened with that him working as like a leader of a mining shaft, basically, and then cut into like that chill sundown bar where they're just having a couple drinks, and he's like basically working as like the union delegate, saying he doesn't want to make their guys work overtime. He's got to get home to his family and whatnot. And then as the movie progresses, I mean, you get to the scenes when he like basically takes his kids out of school, like using the city truck and like then feeding them beer on the way home.
Yeah, I figured we'd talk about this at some point. Yeah, it's a pretty
amazing. That's moment. Like it comes about halfway through. I'm like, you know, and at the same time, it's almost still being filmed in a way. It's like, yeah, this is normal. He's just trying to get his kids to have some fun. He's like taking them out of school, and he's just yelling at them like, "Go have fun, go have fun."
You almost feel like that's the only time that these kids can get a little bit of like connection with their father, when he's in the back and he's like giving them beer. You know, right. I totally felt the same way you did about that.
So yeah, that was pretty funny. But at the same time, it's like this is a person who's certainly not taking care of his kids any more than his wife is able to. But then, yeah, you said it even devolves even further. Like the multiple times he smacks Mabel, and it's pretty tough to watch. And yet, it is kind of still filmed in a way where it's like you're not like really hating the character or whatnot. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that.
Agreed. I mean, I don't think you kind of hate anybody in this film. That's like the interesting thing about the performances. You do feel like whatever shortcomings Peter Falk's character has, it's like coming from like that love. Like you still feel like it's coming from that love the whole time. And even the giving the kids the beer, like I said, it just felt like very like, this is okay. Like this is a father like bonding with his kids, even though, you know, it's just a little bit now, he says to him, well, just a little bit, you know. These kids, all three of them are drinking his beer, like, you know, it's insane. And I love
it probably doesn't sound good on paper though, as we're talking about it, and for people who haven't seen it, and we're just talking about how he's giving his kids alcohol and then beating his wife. It probably doesn't sound
no,
that great,
but yeah, we're not condoning any of that. I guess the thing is that just to say it's the tone that is set by these actors, and how well they play their parts. Like Peter Falk, I've always known him as Columbo growing up. My dad was a huge Columbo fan.
Yeah.
You know, and so like probably is my dad's favorite show. And as I got older, then I started to see him in like, you know, the Swingers, right? And like he started like kind of having like a bit of a resurgence in movies. And I had no clue about this whole era. And of course, this is his best era. Like he's done a lot of films with Cassavetes too. Peter Falk, great actor. It's a shame Gena Rowlands passed away, I think 2 years ago. And Peter Falk now has been gone, I think, probably 10 years or so. But great actors, remembered for their performances for sure.
The spaghetti scene. I love the spaghetti scene. Breakfast spaghetti with the entire coworkers just showing up in the morning. And
Yeah,
he misses, so she stays with the guy stays over, the one she brought home the night before. And then he leaves. And then like 10 minutes later, Nick shows up with like 15 of his coworkers. It's like, that could have been a potential disaster if they ran into each other. But at the same time, you don't know like how often it is. Maybe that's something that actually has happened before. Who knows?
right. Yeah, you kind of don't know. Yeah, in a way, it's just like a series of fucked up shit, like I said, like, and also knowing that like at some point everything's going to come to a head, like, because right off the bat you get this like guy staying over and she's drunk at a bar and you're like, okay, like this is probably like the worst shit that could happen, so like what comes next? It's like, it can't be good. And then yeah, it's a dinner party. It's a everybody from his work coming over, and even though he's kind of like telling people like, yeah, she's a little nuts, my wife's a little nuts, but everyone kind of likes her, you know. And it's actually, again, kind of a heartwarming scene. They're all breaking bread and she wants to know everybody's name. And you know, it seems like she is the type who wants to do this more often, to have people over, to play the role of, like, I guess what, you know, a traditional housewife would be back then. And so she's enjoying the company. And I guess like at some point Nick gets a little jealous or something, because she starts to dance around and he kind of tells her to stop, and he's always doing the point the finger thing, you know. That's like the shit, you know, we are in trouble or whatever.
Definitely old
And
school.
yeah,
Because that
definitely old
that
school.
doesn't fly in relationships anymore. I don't think so.
I mean, the pointing the finger thing doesn't fly at all, like
Yeah.
ever anymore. Like yeah, anytime you point a finger, it's a pretty disrespectful move, I think.
Yeah, no, I mean that whole scene is kind of a masterclass in tone management in terms of like what she's preparing the food for Nick and his coworkers, and everybody is like obviously a big fan of her, and they're getting along, but she keeps on kind of making people feel a little uncomfortable. I mean, she starts asking people to sing, she's singing, and then like pushing some of his coworkers to start singing as well, and that's when Nick starts getting, you can, I mean, you can see he's a little embarrassed, and that obviously comes later when it's when she does get committed and everybody knows about it. There is some embarrassment to it. There was a line that she had later. Mabel says, "You got embarrassed and made a jerk of yourself. I make a jerk of myself every day." Like that resonated with me. It's like so much is like, she's basically used to it, but he's not, at least on his conscious level.
Right, totally. Yeah, this film is stood the test of time. It's like any of those films out there where it's tough to watch, but it's also kind of like great to see the human condition and how people interact with each other, and if for any other reason, a forewarning tale of how to not be. It's it's just really an interesting film in the history of movies, you know. Like it's not something like my mom would have walked out of this film, like, you know, like when I remember when my mom
Yeah,
went
yeah.
and saw Magnolia, she's like, she walked out, she's like, I couldn't take it, you know.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. And I was like, Mom, it's like one of the best movies of all time. And she's like, I just couldn't take it, you know. I'll never forget her saying that. um
Yeah.
because that heavy shit isn't for everybody, you know what I mean. It's like people don't really want to be faced with it all the time, and I don't blame people, you know. Like if you surround yourself too much with it, it could really bring you down, like I was saying earlier, kind of depress you, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good. I mean, that's what I'm attracted to most. I watch the most fucked up shit in relationships on camera. That's what give me as crazy as possible. So
Yeah, again, but then you'll watch RoboCop right after, so then your mood completely switches up and you're, you know, in a different zone. For me, I stick into that like drama all the time.
speaking of, RoboCop is playing at midnight at Music Box tonight and tomorrow.
So
In
you're going to
July.
be there, of course.
I will probably be seeing RoboCop at some point at midnight tonight at the Music Box, the famed Music Box, a treasure in Chicago here. So,
One of the
and
best places on earth. Yeah.
I mean, again, their programming is fantastic, which is again why they're just like, hey, we're going to play RoboCop. Actually, I think it's part of their stop motion set series right now, so I think that's a big part of it. But They played
Yeah.
Evil Dead.
They're
last
doing a
week,
great
and
job
so-
with that. I agree. I see the movies that are playing all the time, as I'm sure you see the new Beverly stuff, and you're just like, we're probably both got
we're just jealous of each other's theaters.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Pushing
But yeah,
forward
so
with it.
I know, there's a lot to say about this film, of course. I think we've covered most of it. Is there any other final thoughts that you had on A Woman Under the Influence?
No, man, I loved it. Like I said, this was your movie, and I was very excited to watch it. Super happy I did. And again, like my main takeaway is just like how overarching influence that Cassavetes had on like modern indie filmmakers. As I mentioned, like Noah Baumbach and the Joe Swanbergs. It's like if you're a fan of their films and any of their films, I would highly recommend checking this film out, and then probably doing a little bit more of a deep dive into Cassavetes' filmography, because it's written all over those current films. You can see it.
Yeah, I doubt that you'd ever run into any filmmaker working today and saying, not saying that they're influenced by Cassavetes. He definitely left his imprint, and a lot of great films, which are mostly available on Criterion, which Criterion's programming, by the way, is just like stepped up a notch again this month. I'm not sure if you noticed, but like the In the Ring series with Alain Delon. Delon is in one of the films in that series. So I wanted to check that out. But obviously Raging Bull's in there, which is a favorite of both of ours, I know. And then, what was I going to say? I saw one last comment before we sign off. I saw Martin Scorsese post yesterday about a new documentary on HBO Max that has to do with Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward, and I could not be more stoked to see it. I mean, I don't know what Scorsese's role was in that, but there's always that quote from Paul Newman: "Why go out for hamburger when I have steak at home?" And it was what he was referencing was his wife, Joanne Woodward, who they had a relationship with and were married for, to each other, and didn't get divorced from each other for their whole life and career. And I love their story. I've always have. I love I buy Newman's pizzas and, lemonade strictly because it's Paul Newman. I don't even care if it tastes good. I just like literally buy it because Paul Newman's on it, because I love Paul Newman.
I got some Newman dressing, so
yeah, there you go. So, and I'm sure you were like, yeah, Paul Newman, I'm gonna get that. I love Paul Newman. So yes, that's something that I'd like to watch, and then if by the next time that we do our Remainders episode, we can discuss a little bit of what we thought of that documentary.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. We could probably revisit. Is it already released?
I think it said it's on HBO Max now. So again, I'll have to borrow my girlfriend's HBO Max subscription to watch it. But I think she'll let me.
Oh yeah, love it. Yeah, we could give some thoughts on. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I didn't mean to cut you off too. Did you have anything else to say about the film? Or I would tell everybody to go see it. In my opinion, I loved it. Thank you for watching it and wanting to discuss it, because I think it's an important film and one that I do love. But next week is your pick, isn't it?
Yeah, going back to me, I got Thunder Road, Jim Cummings' first film. Huge fan of his stuff ever since he started making films not that long ago, and very excited to talk about this one. It's definitely a good character study that, again, talk about tone management. This one captures it very well in terms of the drama and the comedic aspects of life. And his performance is fantastic. So I'm pretty excited to hear your thoughts on it. And
can't
wait.
I was a little disappointed.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed. He had an event where, not too far from you actually, where he screened all three of his films and did like a Q&A. It was like a film marathon basically for the day, where he did a Q&A before and after each screening. So definitely would have checked that out if I was
Werner Herzog was literally right down. Well, Werner Herzog was right down the street at the Los Feliz 3 where I saw Elvis a couple days ago, and I literally missed it and didn't go. Dude, this kicks ass living out here sometimes. Like that, like I could have like walked down the street and talked to like Werner Herzog. Like they had pictures of him in the theater, and I was like, God damn. And then that house that's in this film, that's in Woman Under the Influence, is literally a 7-minute walk down the street for me. I could go there and see the house.
Yeah.
I just realized the other day that the National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation house is like on my walk as well. I thought that was in Chicago, but apparently it's here in Los Feliz. And then I saw the apartment from Double Indemnity. I had no clue was right down the street. So I had my girlfriend drive me by so I could take a picture. Like, you know, I'm crazy about that stuff. I love it. I love the Hollywood stuff. So I've been like every day kind of you experience something new. And even like when I saw this film, A Woman Under the Influence, I was like, this is LA. It's got to be somewhere near me. And of course, I look up the house and it's right here in Hollywood. It's like awesome. I love it.
That's fantastic. Yeah, we got to get in the future. We do have some programming coming up that's going to be a little bit more Chicago centric because I'm getting tired of Darren's dismissal of Chicago for the amazing parts of LA, which they are there, but Chicago's got the vibe and film that I think has a lot of potential. And I was thinking about Thief, actually. So that's one that we may want to talk about. Actually, James Caan just passed away, so that'd be a good time to talk about that. Classic Chicago setting for a film. So,
man, I feel like I could talk to you all day, and I'm sure all the audience is like, okay, when are you guys going to sign off? But I just got to say, best James Caan performance. You could tell me, but mine, Bottle Rocket. I fucking love him in Bottle Rocket. Wes Anderson's first.
Yeah, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I have not seen Bottle Rocket probably since it first came out, and I honestly I need to.
1996.
I mean that's I love Wes Anderson. I've revisited many of his films many a times. I mean, especially Rushmore, but I have not watched Bottle Rocket since it first came out. So thank you. That reminds me, I probably should rewatch that soon.
Yes, you should. It's definitely one of those films where like it's just such a different. It's such a different film, and it's not like all of the films he's made after that. You know, I think Rushmore was in right after that. And the humor is really now what everybody's come to love of Wes Anderson. But it was like still kind of getting there, but it was just like so off the wall and bizarre, and I loved it immediately. But the song, the Scissors song "Future Man" came from there.
Which is a classic.
Yeah, that
an
band,
absolute classic Scissors song.
That band, we would talk about that movie all the time because our drummer was obsessed with it. But James Caan in that is so good. Everything is all good about that. Another great podcast that I listened to talked about the making of that film because Peter Bogdanovich's ex-wife, Polly Platt, was responsible for getting that film made and was kind of the person who got Wes Anderson basically to be able to be Wes Anderson and get to make movies. And it was covered pretty heavily in Karina Longworth does You Must Remember This podcast. I love it. I haven't really kept up with the last couple seasons because I've been busy, but I'm sure anybody who listens to this has been listening to that because it's another film podcast. Anyway, the one on Polly Platt, the season on that is brilliant and amazing. And there's a lot about Bottle Rocket in there. So anyway, I went on another tangent. I apologize.
I love it. Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely remember the Future Man reference and the Scissors song. I just had Scissors MIA came up on my playlist when I was out the other day. And
awesome.
Reminded me like how great that fucking song was. And,
oh, thank you, man. Yeah, you know, sometimes I forget about those things because like I just moved on so much and like doing TLB and everything. I rarely kind of go back to them. And one day I just kind of want to listen to the records again. You know, it's been a while. And yeah, I love that band. It's crazy to think that the last time I did anything with that was 2019. It's already, I felt like it was yesterday, but now it's already, you know, a while ago.
That was right before time stopped for everybody. So
exactly.
You lost it. But yeah, Hardy, I think everyone should definitely watch Woman Under the Influence. Maybe listen to MIA by the Scissors as well for a nice little pairing. And yeah, thank you for picking this one again. Like I'm never disappointed with your recommendations. And so that's why I'm always excited when you pick one that I haven't seen and all the way through.
Thank you very much, Pat. Yeah, same. And you know, and one day we're gonna talk about Bone Tomahawk, which is when you turned me on to that. Like, I haven't been able to stop thinking about since I saw it. That would be a good one to throw on the list. That you got the good recommendations too. Don't sell yourself short.
Oh, I definitely wasn't. So,
By the way, is that one of those? I forget what they call the brand.
oh, this is a non-alcoholic beer, actually.
Yeah, I know. What's that brand?
Athletic Brewing.
I love those. My brother introduced me to those. Yeah, those are
I'm
great.
a big fan of the NA beer of this one right now. So
I've been
I've been
drinking
enjoying
the
this entire podcast.
Heineken Zeros are actually better than the regular Heinekens. My girlfriend and I get those every
Nice.
once in a while on the weekend when we want a beer, but we don't want to have like, alcohol.
Yeah, those are pretty popular. I definitely see those like on like restaurant lists consistently. The Heineken.
Really?
NA.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. There's a lot in LA. I was kind of surprised, like a lot of NA, but I guess it's kind of popping up everywhere. I heard the younger generation doesn't really drink as much as like our generation.
It's definitely declined from our generation. Steep decline from the 70s Cassavetes generation. But yeah, alcohol generally has definitely gone a little bit down. So yeah, is what it is.
Well, anyway, awesome to talk to you again. Thank you everybody for listening. Remainderspod.com, at remainderspod, everywhere on the socials, and at Conscious Book Rex for Pat. And you can hear all the great book recommendations he's got. And then just at Darren Varel for me, if you feel like following us along. We'd love to say hello. We'd love to talk movies. So just find us, and we'll see you back here next time. Thanks again for listening.
Yeah, good talking to you, bud.
You too. See you next time.
See ya.